Uh, Welcome, everybody. Welcome once again to round two of the Formula Prox Fall 2020 season as we open with one of our drivers, Greenberg, putting his car into the wall. Hopefully not a testament of things to come. Joining me tonight in commentary is Mr. Robert O'Brien, the man, the myth, the legend. Robert, how are you?
I wouldn't say the myth now, but good evening. How are you?
All right, that's true. You're a really real person.
I'm as real as I can ever be. I'm patting myself, touching my head, my nose, my ears. I feel real.
All right, well, that's enough. Just take it easy. Well, guys, we're so thrilled to be joining you for round two. We were just talking before the broadcast started that we had two new drivers join us as a result of our broadcast last week, and one who joined us as a result of our post in the iRacing forum. So the system works. People understand what we were doing here, which is trying to have a bit of fun. Now, you will see a number of different cars on the track tonight, and that is a result of our unique balance of performance system, which rewards slower drivers in the field and punishes people for doing well. So Patrick Wilmet, for instance, won the night last week and would be driving the Pontiac Solstice tonight if he did not have real-life concerns to detain him instead. But that's the reason why you will see the field, as we see Chuma there getting into the wall. That's why you will see the field in a variety of different cars. If you want to learn more about our balance and performance system, do check out our website at fprox.net. It'll tell you all about it. And if you think this sounds like fun, number one, you're right. And number two, come and race with us. So, Robert, your excitement level tonight on a scale of 10 to 11, what would you say?
12. I'm really excited, particularly because it's going to be the first night we see variation in terms of the cars, and it's going to be on Lime Rock, which is a quick lap by most standards, and it'll be interesting to see if the Mazdas can keep up. I imagine they can through the technical sections, but maybe on the straights the skippies can pull out some room.
Well, you're right about that, but not a terribly long straight.
No, is it even a mile straight? I'm just trying to think, because as I said, it's not really long, but you also have to factor in the final turn as well. It's a long sweeping right-hander, and I imagine that the skippies would fare much better just with the even little extra downforce that they have compared to the Mazdas. Got a fair few of them out, and they're actually cornering quite flat. The car number 2 having a little bit of a slide.
Yeah, so because we have 3 new drivers tonight, viewers, everyone who starts on the MX-5. So the system is it's a 5-car ladder, slowest to fastest. So the fastest car is the Skip Barber Formula 2000. Just below that is the Legends car. I'm not sure if our driver is on a Legends car tonight. And then the MX-5 is right in the middle. Below that is the Spec Racer Ford, which I believe Hazelton is driving tonight. And then there is the much hated, the cause of much gnashing of teeth, the Pontiac Solstice, which is reserved for whomever won the night the previous week. If it sounds a bit complicated. It does take a little bit to get your head around, but the point is we maximize entertainment and fun more than just everybody being in the same car, smashing it around the track. So that's so as Robert, as you said, our first night up as being our second race of the season, the first night that we see all the cars on track, and it is gonna be well, it's really gonna be something.
Well, I mean, when you said it's the much hated, I'm referring to the Pontiac. To drive, yes, but the spectators might love it in a very sort of twisted way. It's a car that, for some reason, has racing credentials, but it's a lot of fun, especially for those caught in the tailwind. To put it lightly, spinning around, having accidents. It's a fan favorite, but for the drivers, it's essentially the doorstop of the racing world.
Yeah, some have called it the rolling chicane, and it's certainly no slouch of a car. I mean, look, if you can't have fun in any car on the track, then I think the problem is more with you than it is with your equipment. But compared to the field, Solstice is a little bit sluggish, particularly on the higher speed tracks. So it should be a little bit more fun on something like this. It's got some technical sections, as we see Hazelton going through those S's on the way up the hill. He is in the Spec Racer Ford, the second least esteemed car in our lineup, if you permit me that appellation.
It still is a proper racer. I mean, it's just not.
For sure.
It's not as souped up as as something like the Barber is, and it's not got the same legs as the Mazda does, but it can still put in some good laps.
Yeah, nice neutral handler. I personally like the Spec Racer Ford a lot, but in a mixed field, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So, again, welcome to our 3 new drivers tonight. Mr. Leon Borders is joining us. He is in the MX-5. I do not see. His car number is 22. Number 22, MX-5. Thor Tulla is also joining us. He will also be driving the MX-5. He's in the number 27 car. And who is the other one? You'll excuse me. Oh, it's Hundinger. Yes, of course. Hundinger is in the number 02 machine. And they'll all be in the MX-5s tonight. I believe we have 4 MX-5s tonight, if I'm not mistaken. But perhaps someone hasn't joined us yet for the qualifying. As we see the clock ticking over to just about 8 minutes in qualifying elapsed. So we see another time going up on the board there. Flannery at the top of the timing tower, followed by Greenberg and New Boy on the course. Hundinger in the 02 car. As I believe we're just seeing Thor Tulla leaves the well, he's pulling a Vettel, isn't he? Just driving it straight through the styrofoam.
He's gone into the runoff and having to recover and take the walk machine on what would be the longest configuration for Lime Rock, which is the sweeping turn up through the hill and essentially praying that your car doesn't launch into the air sort of section.
Yes.
I did notice, by the way, that I think a lot of people are fans of Formula One. I just spotted a 0305 liveried. I think that is Chuma, the car number 7. Yeah, the car number 7. Oh no, sorry, he was in the Williams. Sorry, apologies. The car number 7 is Hayden. He's driving the newer, the BMW Williams when BMW Williams was a thing, 0305 era. It's a very nice, clean livery. Yeah. Though my favorite one is the later version Williams, which is essentially a late version Williams. I'm putting it 2018.
I will defer to your greater knowledge on that. But yeah, certainly sad news this weekend as we sad to see Claire Williams stepping down from Williams, but we are not Formula One, so we don't have to bother with their news. They certainly do not mention us. But yeah, it was just amazing to see, Ferrari not performing incredibly well. As we tick over the 10th minute in qualifying, I believe we have most of our drivers. Yes, indeed. Everybody has turned in a time. Flannery still at the top of the tower with a 1 minute. Yeah, let's see some standings so far. We just adjusted these for your viewing pleasure. I think that you'll be thrilled to see what we've got. So here are your standings, and there they go again, and here they come back. Oh, thank you so much, by the way, to Dennis Branch, our producer. But they'll be back again shortly, I have no doubt. Look, guys, this is live. This is live performance, a live event. It's a treat for the eyeballs. It's like a fried crab cake, but instead of eating it with your mouth, you get to enjoy it with your eyeballs. That's would you say that's an apt description, don't you think, Robert?
That's I would give it that apt description. It's like a nice sizzling steak that you can feast your eyes on.
Forgive me for not knowing this, but do they have crab cakes in Ireland?
No.
No?
Oh, no.
Oh, well, there's plenty of good things to eat.
Potatoes are one.
Okay, so here these are the results from the second race of last week. So they are not doing us too terribly many favors. Let's see. Well, yeah. No worries. We've just heard from our producer, Dennis. I don't know if you can hear his voice, but he just had a PC crash right before the broadcast started, and I would love to give him a little bit of hell about that. But mine crashed during the broadcast last week, so
I have to champion the cause of stable PCs now.
So, but I can tell you that so far in the lead is Patrick Wilmet, who is not racing with us tonight. You can see him there in the results. He has got 41 points thanks to a first place finish in the first race and his 15 there that you see, plus that he got a point for fastest lap of the day. And then just behind him is, let's see, I'm just having to do math in my head, so if you hear a sizzling sound, that's what's going on. Fred Hazelton, I believe, is in P2 in the standings with 29 points. He won race 2. I believe he might also have had the fastest lap. And then we have Flannery and Day, who are tied at 28 points. On it goes to Greenberg, who had a slightly disappointing night last week. Had a little bit of trouble keeping his car from touching other people's cars, which is can certainly cause some consternation. And then from him, we go to Hayden Such, who is at 20 points. And on down to Warren Chuma Onabogu, known as Chuma to his many fans. And Scott Lovett is got 4 points. So you'll excuse me, please, if those are out of order. But if I were any good at mathematics, I would not have become a performer, and I would have made some money.
A PhD in mathematician.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. So Flannery. Wow. He's got quite a lead there on Greenberg. Nearly a second, and on a track this size, that's nothing to sneeze at.
I'm just trying to see. I'm trying to remember. Did Greenberg set the fastest lap and then Flannery took it from him, or did Flannery have the fastest lap from the start and then Greenberg set the second fastest lap?
I believe I perhaps wasn't paying attention, but I believe that Flannery has been on the top of the tower for most of the session. Let's see. I'm just looking back through the events to see if I can answer your question. And it appears that no, I cannot. So accept my apologies. But I think that Flannery has been laying down a pretty well command performance for the evening. And since he's in the pit, I guess he's decided, as we see qualifying come to an end, He's done the best he can do. Greenberg.
And Greenberg couldn't best him. He did a 102.005, so he couldn't best him.
Yeah, when we just connected and started, we saw Greenberg really throwing the car around, but the track temps out there very, very high. We're above, well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 176 billion Celsius, if my math is correct.
It's about 35, 40 Celsius, yeah.
Yeah, that. Okay, so here are are these our qualifying results, or is this the grid? I believe that's the grid. So that'll be Flannery in P1 on the front row. Joining him is Greenberg in P2. Chuma Onambogu, get out of here in P3. Well done to you, sir. Fan favorite and commentator favorite, Chuma. P4 is new guy, Carter Kundinger. So glad to have you, Carter. Thank you so much for joining us. And P5, Fred Hazelton, normally a very good qualifier, perhaps having a little bit of an off night, although he is in the Spec Racer Ford, so maybe that is what is hurting him somewhat. Scott Lovett in 6th place. Watch for his start. A very good starter is Scott Lovett, followed by Hayden Such, Ortella, and we are underway before I even got to the end of the grid.
Quick, as we see Flannery and Greenberg. Greenberg was looking like he wanted to go side by side, and basically the Spec Racer, he's just gone ahead of everybody. He just skipped the queue. Man's just blown for 5th place. He's coming to the 3rd position out of absolutely nowhere. That was a very great start by him. He must, well, I'm pretty sure he has a lot of experience getting started in the Spec Racing game.
Sorry to interrupt you there. See if we can see it back there in the back. It's going to be that weird digital camo car and Chuma getting locked up here as they go into the turn. Oh, they got into the back of Chuma. And that is the number 3 car, which is Scott Lovett.
Yeah, the skip bar has a very large girth on its nose. So if you get it stuck in between like the spec, in between the gap between the wheel and the engine in the back, for instance, there's only really one way that you can go, and that's into a spin, because you've essentially lost the rear end, and I've seen a fair few occasions where that has not gone well. Let's just put it that way.
I believe we're looking at. Oh no, Greenberg is.
Yeah, Greenberg has in the second corner. He actually had an accident as well himself, chasing down the race leader of Flannery. He goes wide coming into turn 1. He kept his foot into it, so he did well, but and he did well to keep it out of the way. But I think keeping his foot into it that long, I think just might have been
maybe did not serve him well, as we see Kundinger all over the back of Hazelton's here. Now, I should let you know that this is only a 15-minute sprint race, and then the next heat will be a reverse grid of this race. So even if someone manages to get away a little bit, as we see Kundinger on the front straight getting around Hazelton, a textbook pass there, I think, just manages to get it done before we head into turn 1. So even if things manage to spread out a little bit in this race, we will have a reverse grid for next race, and there will be even more carnage.
Yeah, and might I add that the new guy and Hazelton, they're both going at it. I thought Carter did really well to get to where he did, and then he's able to press up against the Ford, essentially. You know, it's quite interesting to see how even with the slower car, Hazelton is still able to keep up, but Carter is not letting him by just because he's faster in a slower car. He kind of bounces it all out.
Yeah, it looks to me like he's pushing his gap up. It looks like Kundinger might be walking away from Hazelton a little bit. Looks like he's got, a pretty good little gap on him, as we see Flannery set the fastest time so far at a 1:04.3. None too shabs.
No, not at all. I mean, especially with him being the new guy and having to sort of get stuck
God
in.
knows what he's dealing with on the Discord right now.
getting stuck in and getting molded into the group. Being one of the boys, as we would call it. Being one of the groupies. He's doing very well for his first race. So very very good credits to him. Tuttle, the other new guy on the track, in 5th position, battling Ben Warren. So it's a faster car battling the slower car, and just maybe we might see Tulla finishing square bang in the middle, and that would be my prediction for where he comes from, as he's able to keep Warren just at bay, just about, but you can just see that Warren is closing the distance on the straights, especially during the long sweeping right onto the start finish. He's able to catch up, and he's actually going side by side into turn 2.
Looked like the rear end stepped out just a hair on Warren there, but as we see them really battling it out through the technical part of the track, this is a lot of fun. This is exactly why we want to use this balance of performance system, so that we have battles like this going on all over the track. This is just thrilling for me, and I know that
Tulla having to negotiate a sausage curve. Even in the MX-5, the sausage curve is very sort of, it's not pretty to go over one, even in the MX-5, which rides a lot higher than the most of the cars on the service. And if you did that in a SB, you might have to say goodbye to your front nose, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, as we see Tulla lose the rear end of the car, and he's going to get into the wall. Oh, he just kept his foot in it just a little too much as they swung onto the front straight there. It happens at all levels of racing, as I'm sure Charles Leclerc would be happy to tell you. Unfortunate.
Yeah. It was a pretty big crash, but Tulla, he's right beside pit lane. He can go in, get some repairs, and he can try coming back out.
And see what he can do. Just past the pit entrance.
Yeah, absolutely. He can just pop in for some quick repairs and get back up to speed.
We do have one fast repair on for these guys for stuff like that, because we want people to race. We want them to get their elbows out and have a little bit of argy-bargy, if you don't mind the turn of phrase. So we do have a fast repair on, so you should be able to rejoin and at least continue to have a little bit of fun. But I was going to say, finishing mid-pack, as you were mentioning, is not a terrible strategy in our league, since we do have we dropped 2 nights out of our 8-week season. So if you're able to just stay mid-pack and not get into any, trouble or incidents, that could be a pretty solid performance to finish the season well.
And it also bodes well for when you're actually, if you finish your first heat and then you're going into your second heat, and your second heat is essentially a reverse. Sitting in 5th on the first heat, and then you're going into the second heat, you're essentially able to negotiate the slower traffic, as it were, a lot easier. So for something like the Ford, where it can sort of do very well in terms of midfield and keep its pace up, what it can do then, as soon as the flag drops for the second race, all Hazelden has to do is get an absolute flying start, and then he's out and away.
We just saw Scott Lovett do exactly what you were talking about, bouncing over those sausage curbs or sleeping policemen, as we see him do the same thing again and lose in the rear of the car. Ooh, manages to save it going down the front straight. That is a 3-car group of Greenberg, Lovett, and Shuma Onubogu. The historic livery. Here we are with Hazelton and Hundinger fighting it out for second place. Flannery has disappeared into the distance in his Spec Racer Ford. No, excuse me, he's in the Skip Barber. But these guys are battling it out for P2, as they have been all race, as you were saying.
Yeah, and Carter is doing extremely well, keeping the Ford at a safe distance. I think he just wants to be... Jiminy Cricket, it is the car 22 causing a bit of disturbance, but no accidents happened, and they are all continuing racing. You see, what I'm fearful is that if the Ford can get into a gap, it probably can keep itself there. It probably has some resistance to argy-bargy from something like Carter trying to see if he can.
Oh, we see Hazelton attempting to pass here. Not a bad spot to try to make it work. It looks like he's managed to get ahead, but Cunninger's just got him on that, doesn't he?
Yeah. Carter has a good bit better launch speed, a bit more grunt coming out of the MX-5's engine, and compared him to, the poor little Ford that could. I mean, he's doing very well to be in third place, but I think the technical, it's not enough to make up for the lack of speed that car has.
Well, here's what I like about those. As you can see, center driving position, a purpose-built race car. Those things are a lot of fun. But that looked like a slightly early turn in there to me from Carter Cunninger in the number 2 MX-5, but given his lap times, I'll let him tell me what's the right place to turn in.
Well, with the first turn, you kind of have to sacrifice it if you want a great exit out of 2. And with Hazelton, he needs to be able to get the great exit out of 2 so he can try and make it work with 3. Because 3 is a long, sweeping left hairpin, essentially speaking. Even for these cars, it is. He needs to be able to get ahead and stay ahead through these sections, these sweeping sections, through this second last right-hander. He needs to be able to hold the MX-5 behind him, because the MX-5 won't be able to make a move coming into sweeping right. It'll just be too much for the poor MX.
Well, I was just going to say, I think you were absolutely right about the sort of the torque difference, because we saw as they went through that that chicane part, and then we just going up the hill, the MX-5 was able to really just put some power down to the road and scoot away. And now here we see Hazelton is all over his tailpipe again.
Yeah, Hazelton is using the little boy that, and he's actually putting it side by side. Can he make it work though? I don't think he can. The gap is coming back to Carter. Thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. I think the MX-5 is able to put power down, and I don't think Hazelton wants to force the issue through the chicane, because either or could end up on a social curb, and that's going to be a very sore spine in the morning if that happens.
Well, we do give Hazelton a little bit of stick about. I have been known to call him Fred Hipcheck Hazelton, just because he gave somebody a little bit of a bump at Atlanta in one of our early testing races for this league. But I kid because there's nothing wrong with Hazelton's driving. So it is nice though that they've been able to keep it clean here so far as we are participating. We're going, same thing, 3 laps in a row. Hazelton starts to get ahead during this section right here, and then Cunninger is able to close it back up. I think when we get to I think we're really going to see some fireworks when we get a few more laps down, as it looks like Hazelton's able to head again, and Cunninger it's like every lap they swap spots and they're able to get back together.
Yeah, Hazelton will have to hug the rear end of Carter. Carter is set. No,
that was Photo Bogey Warren Lovett there. And Warren just behind everybody duking it out in the Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars. And we see Lovett dip the loop.
Oh, sorry, a little bit, unfortunately. I'm sorry, a little bit. I apologize for laughing. Just seeing the Skippy just going.
I've said it on the broadcast before, but Lovett is one of those guys who is very, very excitable on mic. So that's why he is in the car and not on the commentary team, although it would be hilarious. So I'm just imagining in my head what's coming out of his mouth when he has those little moments. It's a colorful moment.
I'm pretty sure he's playing Don't Stop Me Now, I'm Having Such a Good Time by Queen. It's just in his head, and it's just like, every time he gets into a corner, he's just gunning it, and he's just loving every second of it.
I wonder, okay, here we are on lap 14. As we see Flannery set the fastest lap of the race. Here we are just about to finish the race up, and he's setting the fastest lap again. So he's not slowing down, even though he's got a 22-second gap on the rest of the field. Hazelton's moments to try to make a move are coming to an end here, Robert.
he needs to make it happen. Well, he needs to make it happen probably on the last lap, unless Carter makes a mistake like he did. He did just have a slight bit of a slide. Not too much for Hazelton to get to poke his nose in and make it stick. But Hazelton just needs to keep pressuring him. He just needs to be able to say, it's your move. You can make the mistake if you want. I'm fine. I'm in a big spec forward, you know? I can take a hit or two.
That was always my philosophy. Like, just get as close to them as you can. Fill up their mirrors so that they see your livery every time they look up. And hopefully, they will make a mistake before you do.
I mean, the first thing that Carter will see is the big golden head or big golden helmet of Hazelton. So he's definitely making sure that Carter knows, and Carter's going on essentially the instant. Yeah, he's going on. He knows it's the last lap now. The white flag is flying, and he knows that if Hazelton actually going on the inside of turn 2, this is the first time that he's done that with such a commanding gap, and he's made it happen.
Now, if he can make that Spec Racer Ford as wide as possible, I think his trouble spots are coming up here in just a second as he goes through those S's and starts to head up the hill. Right here is where Carter will really be hunting him down. This is exciting stuff.
Absolutely. I'm just hoping for a photo finish on the line, because I think that's what Hazelton will be thinking in the back of his head as he's coming up to the line, and Flannery crosses the checkered flag. But this is what we want to see. Just see the sliding moves from Carter's MX-5. He's putting the nose in, and he's making sure that the car just about makes it. But there's just not enough. I thought there might have been enough track, but unfortunately it doesn't happen for Carter. But a third place finish for your first race in the series, that's all a bit fun. I think that's very good.
Yeah, well, a little bit of a racing incident there over the line as Carter gives Hazelton a little bit of a celebratory punt, and off he goes in turn 1 into the tire wall. Now, again, I've mentioned this, but let me just go ahead and say that these in our league, everybody's on a Discord together. They're all swearing and hollering at one another. So there may be some contact on track, but just understand that these guys are all friends. They're all having a good time.
At the end of the day, they're all just, you know, the elbow, I'll buy your beer, you know, that kind of thing.
So we should get our results here shortly, but that was a very exciting first race. Now, what are we going to be looking at? It looks like we're going to have maybe Vorders. Yes, okay, so here are our results. Thank you so much to our producer again, Dennis Branch, for all of his hard work. Your winner, Ryan Flannery, is going to, I believe, take the lead of the series after tonight based on these points alone and the fact that Wilmet is not here. Although we do, again, have drop races. So Hazelton in second place, Carter Cundinger. That was that battle that we were watching for most of that first heat. And what a battle it was. Well done to those guys. Hayden Such, another solid performance. He is not scared of a P4 finish, Robert. He's really just seems to be able to turn them in. Greenberg, yeah. I don't think he got into too much trouble, but I think he was being a little bit careful there based on last week. Chuma, Warren, and Lovett were all battling it out. And then Leon Vorders and Thor Tulla, two of our new drivers, are rounding out the results there.
Just to make a point on Greenberg himself, he had that accident coming into turn 2 where he spanned the car and kept his foot in it. He did very well to actually come back to 5th. So he'll essentially be in prime position in the Skippy to be able to make some moves on the early few laps of the race if he can get past the wall of other Skippies and MX-5s that he'll have to pass to get to the front. But he's in a better position than the Spec Ford now, I'll say that much.
Well, you know, Robert, do you think that there's any chance that Greenberg is facing a little bit of bad luck just because he's not in his customary oregano livery? Now, we can see he does have one of the he does have an oregano leaf there on the side pods and on the nose cone of his car, but normally his car is covered in those oregano leaves. He is, of course, a very talented gourmand. Loves his herbs and spices, he does. As for why he's chosen a 3 number for himself, I have no idea, as we see him leave the track and dip his wheels into a little trackside oregano.
I think Greenberg is the keep the foot in it, it'll all be okay kind of guy. It does work out most of the time.
As we see Hazelton keeping his foot into the rear of Greenberg's car.
And Greenberg's still going. So in this case, in David versus Goliath, Goliath actually won. So
yeah, it's tough. You touched on something very interesting. It's tough once you start to feel the car get away from you in the rear a little bit. If you keep your foot in it, sometimes you go off, and if you jump off the throttle, sometimes you go off.
Yeah, it's for when you lose the rear end of the car, you need to do a lot of throttle modulation. So you need to be able to sort of feed the car the power that it's saying that it needs, without sliding too much, so that the rear end overtakes the front end. While giving steering inputs and trying to correct the car and not snap back the way you came and overcorrect, essentially.
Yeah,
it's a skill.
Right?
Yeah, well, you'd hope it would be, but for some of the cars, like the Skippy would actually be I think the Skippy and the MX-5 are probably the 2 of the easiest to sort of take back control if the car misbehaves. The Skippy in particular is it slides quite a lot just out of sheer circumstance of it being a Skippy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you actually have a look at it when it's going through corners, it's actually sliding quite a lot, but it's a very controlled slide. It's its way of cornering, essentially. It's not like you're ever going to be overly punished for doing a slide. We're on board with Chuma, as you can see him coming into turn 1. Like, you can see how the wheels are pointed to the right, and the difference between that and how the car's actually positioning itself. It is like the Skippy is essentially drifting at all times, very very minorly, but it is slightly visible.
Yeah, I always found these tires. This is Hayden Such, by the way, we're on board with here. I always found these tires to be just hard. They're all-season tires on the Skippy, I believe, which gives it that sort of slidey characteristic. And you don't have quite as many setup choices with it as you do with the MX-5. As we see our grid for Heat 2. Thortilla in P1 with Leon Vorders. Lovett in P3. Let me just go ahead and call it. Lovett is going to make it up to P1 before we get to turn 1. Ben Warren in P4, followed by Chuma, Greenberg, Such, Kundinger, Hazelton, and Flannery. Keep your eye on that red digital camo number 3 car. There we go. The lights are full up, and out they go. And it appears that Lovett has made a liar out of me. He did not have a very good start.
That is Carter on the outside, just trying to see if he can edge his way past Greenberg. Greenberg wasn't allowing it, but it is now the car 22. It's
oh no! Oh, Lovett!
Oh dear, poor Lovett. Having it's not even
Greenberg
just Lovett. Greenberg also.
Those 2 cars are fused forever. Oh no, they're continuing.
It's the. Ooh, yeah, you can just see how Lovett was the surprise Pikachu meme when his car suddenly decided it wanted to fly.
I was just thinking of Mark Webber at Le Mans.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. When he did that twice, didn't he? He flipped end over end twice, like on 2 separate occasions.
I think it was his teammate. In the other CLK, and then they sent him back out, and his car did it too. If I'm not mistaken, it's been quite a few years.
Do you hold the brakes in a situation like that?
If you're in the air? I mean, I was talking about Scott Dixon's big crash at Indy 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that was, and you could see in the slow-mo that he had let go of the wheel. And as we see Chuma leaving the leaving the track without his nose cone.
And rear wing as well. The poor Skippy. I think it's seen better days in poor Chuma's car. And you did actually got me correct on one thing. It was Hayden that we were seeing before the race had started in the warms. It wasn't Chuma like I had claimed. So.
Well, it's only because of the name tag in the lower left of the broadcast that I'm able to do that. So don't feel too bad about yourself.
No. I'm surprised none of these are pitting though. They do have a fast repair. If they thought they had a chance of being able to claw back some places, like poor Chuma.
Chuma's missing the most of his car.
I thought he was a bit disappointed.
So here we have, Robert. Somehow Carter Cunninger has found himself at the lead of the race, despite finishing the previous race in P2. Here he is, your race leader in the number 2 MX-5. I would expect a very good performance. He finished, what, P3? P3 in the previous heat. And here he is, out in front by lap 3. He must have driven through a storm of flying bits of skippy cars.
Yeah, because he was behind when we're going into turn 2, so he definitely had to have moved through the main pack of carnage and chaos. As Scott Lovett does rejoin the track, it's good to see him back out. Now, it's actually it was very close to being the previous situation where Carter and Hazelton were essentially fighting for second place, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Hayden and Carter that'll be fighting for first position. And if Carter manages to hold on, he is faster than Hayden, but if this stays the way it is, I would be pissed.
Well, that was quite a drag race that we just saw down the front straight. That was Flannery just taking a pass on Tulloch in the number 27 MX-5. And I did not know if Flannery was going to be able to get it done, but he did in his spectacularly liveried Skip Barber F2000 car there. And it looks like he's going to be able to take a little bit of a gap on Tulloch. Flannery's certainly one of our drivers who's never lacking too much for pace. A great driver is Flannery. So perhaps he'll be able to close up to Hazelton and make something happen there.
I think the idea would be that if Hazelton on the last lap he's about 2 to 3 tenths of a second faster. I'm not sure that's going to be enough, but if he continues to put in good laps, just try and close the gap. As you can see, he was only just under 2 tenths faster than Hayden. So I think Hazelton will try his best just to catch up to Hayden as best he can, and then hound him for the last 2 to 3 laps of the race. Whereas with Carter, he just has nice sunny hills ahead of him.
Well, Hazelton, Flannery appears to be taking some pretty good time out of Hazelton. We just saw Flannery turn in the fastest lap of the race at a 1:01:36. So, if I'm not mistaken, on this lap, he's pulled more than a second out of Hazelton, and just about a second gap there. I think we're going to see Flannery battling Hazelton the next time we come around the front straight. Flannery might be able to ride that slipstream to get to him in turn 1. Well, maybe he's not quite close enough.
It depends. It's particularly difficult to gauge. Now, Flannery just posted another purple lap time of a 1:08:94. So, he ate his Weetabix today.
He sure did.
Because he's putting in some massive laps, and I think Hazelton might be letting him go, but he's...
No, I think
he is.
Yeah, he might be, but I think just a minute ago, as we were watching Flannery, we saw a little bit of dust in the air there, and I think Hazelton might have put a wheel just a bit wrong that lost him some pace, although I think Flannery was going to catch him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to see Flannery attempt to make a move on Such. Now, I will say that if Flannery wins this race, if Cunninger wins, gets the most points for the night, he will be in the Solstice next week. But if Flannery gets the most points on the night, since he's in the Skippy car, he will move back down to the MX-5. Again, if you want to know more about our balance of performance, the whole idea of this league and our balance of performance is to have moments like the ones that we've had all night tonight, which is just battles all over the place. Everybody's got somebody to drive with. We're not one of those leagues where you have to read a 17-page rule book, as we see Flannery going too wide with Such here. As they get to the more technical parts of the track, Such locks up, as does Flannery, to try to stay out of his gearbox. That was an unfortunate hitch for the two of those drivers, but at least they managed to keep it clean. Anyway, we try to have a whole lot of fun. Try to keep it from being a Hamilton, Bottas, and Verstappen every single race. I don't know if you were watching the Monza or the Italy race, Robert, but it was hilarious listening to Martin Brundle talk about doing driver interviews. And he's like, every time it's like, Lewis, you won the race. Yes, I did. Valtteri, you weren't able to, you lost again. Yes, I did. Max, you weren't able to keep up with the Mercs. No, I couldn't.
Yeah. When I was seeing the last few laps, I was at the edge of my seat and I was jumping up and down. I was just like,
that was one of the best battles we've seen. I can't even remember when the last time we saw a battle like that was. You're talking about Sainz and Gasly.
Yeah.
I won't just
yeah, I mean, credit where credit's due. I mean, Sainz just went that even if there's a smidgen of a chance, I will take it and I will run with it as far as I can. And truth be told, if he did have an extra lap, it probably would have sealed the deal. But I was almost moved seeing that Pierre Gasly was able to sort of have such a turn of fortunes for him in a good way as well, being able to sort of redeem himself.
Well, let's hope for a little bit of redemption for our boy Chima as we see him driving along there in the classic livery. This is Lovett leading Warren in the battle for 8th place. And is it? No, because Lovett is a lap down. So that's just, they're just driving along on track. That is the number 22 machine of Borders. New to our league, so glad to have him with us. And he's followed closely by Greenberg, and that is not a... Greenberg's going to take an easy pass there from Borders, who's taking it easy. And Greenberg, of course, in P5, has got a pretty decent gap up to the 4th place car. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to close that gap down in the remaining 10 laps.
He's not got a front wing, so I'm surprised the car is still going straight. like the first thing I thought.
But think of the top speed.
I mean, the top speed won't do you too good when you're sliding around like a rally car doing a Scandinavian flick.
Yeah, he's going to have to really throw it into these corners to get the front end to bite without a wing on the front.
Yeah, it's not even like.
He's got a wing. Oh no, sorry.
That's Flannery. I mean, it's not like in F1 where they have this extremely complicated and intricate, setup for a front wing that dives the air this way and that. I mean, these are simple things. It's for a good reason. It's a skip arbor. It's not meant to be complicated. It's meant to be a nice, simple open wheeler, and that you can chuck it around with the league and still be able to essentially afford a meal at the end of the day. But it still is useful to actually have a front wing, because it does make up the entire package. If you don't have the front wing, the front of the tires, your front tires will bite into the corners. You'll lose stability throughout the entire setup, really, and it won't be pretty. Let's put it that way.
Well, it looks like we are going to have a pretty interesting battle here, as Flannery has closed up the gap to race leader Kundinger. He's got his gap, as you can see there on the timing tower at the top left of your screen, just down to under a minute. And not only that, but Kundinger is coming up on some of these cars that are at the latter end of the field. That is Lovett, you can see ahead. So as Flannery turns in yet another fastest lap of the race, this guy is printing purple numbers. He's closed right up to the back of Kundinger. Hopefully they're able to keep this clean because Carter is new to our league, and we don't want him to be too annoying.
I mean, he did very well for the laps that he did, but Flannery's just been putting in. I don't know how much Weedy Bix he had, but he had a lot. He's had the entire wheat factory of Weedy Bix has been dedicated for his cereal because he's just been able to put in lap after lap of goodness. And it's only now that he's actually caught up to Carter that he's actually slowed down. But I'm pretty sure he'll have a peak on his right-hand side once they come past the start-finish line. But Carter is not going to be dismayed that the Skippy's behind him.
Yeah, the fact that Lovett is up there throws a monkey wrench into the works just a bit, because it makes it a little bit harder, I think, for Flannery just to go slamming by as they both get their pass on Lovett. Thankfully, clean. We're riding on pretty nice metal flake paint job here on Flannery's car, I'm just noticing. Heading to the more technical section of the track before we go up the hill, you can see that Flannery's wing, as the end plate appears to be slapped in there on my driver's left as we just ride inside Flannery's nose cone.
It shows you how close they're racing, though. I mean, I'm looking at it now.
I think we were looking at his feet for a second there.
Yeah, I thought I saw the tippy top of his toes.
Yeah.
As they come around the sweeping right-hander, I think Flannery is just seeing how far he can push Carter. He's just doing a little bit of a bit of a towing on the straights, just trying to see if Carter will slip.
That looked like a little tap to me.
It did. I mean, the MX-5 is made of, steel girders and iron plates, so I think a few taps from it won't hurt it, but, the Skippy is not, christened with such greatness in terms of strength. I mean, you practically look at it the wrong way and the front end will fall off.
Well, here's Flannery for the pass. Heading into the chicane, he manages to make it happen, but it looks to me like Kundinger is not going to just let him by too terribly easily. Now we're going to see a reversal of roles, I think. Although, as I say that, here's Flannery looking like he's able to make a little bit of time harder.
Yeah, I think Flannery is just being able to... just to say, Carter going very wide coming out of the sweeping right-hander, but he's actually catching up. He's actually closed the gap by 1.5 tenths, and he's diving very aggressively into the first turn, and Flannery, I don't think, will want that to happen again, because if he can keep within the slipstream, he's got a fighting chance, especially on the straights. But in the technical sections, as you can see, Flannery is just running away with it. I think he's just got it down to a T with the Skippy.
He's Flannery certainly tuned into his car and tuned into the track tonight. He has been, as we've said, it seems like every time he goes around, he's got another purple lap. Whereas, let's see, Flannery's best is a 1:74, and the best that Carter has been able to do all night is a 1:02.22. So that's getting on for a 1.5 difference. Not that you can do your best lap every time, but we are seeing a pretty big gap between Flannery and Kundinger now. So looking back through the field, it doesn't look like we have too many close battles, but Hazelton and such look like they're at least within shouting distance of one another. Whether Hazelton will be able to close that gap or not is another matter.
Well, Hazelton is putting in fast laps. It's not, he's not breaking records, but he is putting in faster laps than such is. But Greenberg behind him is also looking like he wants a little bit of the pie, because he will be looking to see if he can catch up to the rear end of Hazelton within the next 2 laps. I'm guessing, given the current pace right now, that's what will happen. If Hazelton can keep 4th, that'll, I think that'll suit him down to the ground. But I think Greenberg will, with no front wing, look to see if he can upset it. Do you know what the first thing I thought when I saw Greenberg's nose cone without a front wing? I thought it looked like a pencil. or like one of those rubbers that you had in class, like when you were young. It's green, so man, we wrote with pencils when we were like little kids, and we had green rubbers. So I thought it was rubber.
I should probably tell you that in the USA, rubber is a different thing. It's not the kind of thing that you give school kids. But when they get a little bit older, you suggest that they get a handful. And speaking of getting a handful, Greenberg is looking to get himself a handful of Hazelton. No question about it.
He's closed the gap again, and
Hazelton is not too far off Such either. So we're gonna have a real ding dong thing.
And Chuma is doing well for himself as well. He's actually passed the car of Tolo coming through. I think that was turn 1 he made the move. So Chuma, he's my personal favorite, as I said before, commentator's favorite. He's my personal favorite. And I'll cheer on for him no matter what.
Great attitude.
He's making up for his first race, and he's putting in a respectable 6th, and I think that's where he'll end up. And we now come to this is essentially a 3-way battle. They're all within a second of each other, and it's a Ford Skippy sandwich.
Very interesting, different series of lines there as they went into turn 1. I'm sure you noticed as well, but it looked like Hazelton kept it a little bit tighter than either of the Skippies did. I'm guessing that would be down to the sort of slidey way that the Skippy, as we see Greenberg really closing up the gap to Hazelton and indeed getting past.
Yeah, Greenberg was just able to get a very nice, clean entry into the chicane, and then his exit was just a lot better, I think, than Hazelton was able to pull. And Hazelton had to, as a unit, essentially, he's just not got the grunt to be able to match the Skippy, but he has the slipstream now. So if with his
certainly,
he's actually looking to. I thought he was actually looking to see if he could actually sneak on the inside. That would have been very brave. I'm gonna say that much. That would have been very brave by a spec Ford to look on the inside of a Skippy Barber coming into turn 1 like that, even with slipstream. But he's still looking on the inside. I think this will be the defining battle of the race right here. See, coming on the chicane, it is skip all of those nasty sausages for freaking policemen, and essentially try and cut a straight line as much as you can through the middle as they come to receive the white flag, sweeping right, and you can just see how much Greenberg's actually sliding. He's kicking the tail out coming through the final corner. I have to think, is he praying every time he comes through that final?
That looked like a lot of slip angle to me.
Yeah, that is not a rally, that's not a rally car, but if it was, I'd put Greenberg in it because he's going to wrestle it in ways that I've never thought a Skippy should realistically do, but it's happening. Is he going to try and go for 3rd?
Oh, why not?
I mean, it's close.
Oh, no, Greenberg! Oh, Greenberg.
Oh, dear.
That was just Greenberg getting into the rear of Such's car and sending him around and getting hooked up.
Flannery taking the checkered flag with Carter. Very well done in 2nd place. And then Hazelton. I thought he was resigned to 5th place. And then Greenberg, unfortunately, hit the rear end of Such in a very tricky place. And so both of them had to take a...
Oh, Such.
Ooh, there's something wrong with that car, I think. I think there is something wrong. When you hear an engine going like that, uh-oh.
Oh, it looks
Wait
like
a
Chuba's
minute.
going to get by him. Oh, there looks to be at turn one, there looks to be quite a smash 'em up going on down there, just judging by the...
He manages to cross the line. Just I think that engine was probably conking out, because if I know iRacing, that is the very distinct sound of an engine that's giving up the ghost.
Yeah. Unfortunate, but we do want a league where there's a lot of action. So we just, it looks like we're waiting on Lovett, who's in the pit. So he is done for the evening. Well, what a roller coaster of ups and downs that was. That was a great race, a great 2 races at Lime Rock. I'm really thrilled with those results.
Yeah, I would be as well, because that was such great fun to watch. It was unfortunate that that Greenberg and such got together at the chicanes, but at the very end of the day, I think the two of them will just battle it again on track for the next session, and I think Hazelton will count his blessings that he was able to make it through into third just on a whim.
Well, there are your results for Heat 2. Flannery scampering away with the win there. And although these, yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, unfortunate that Such ended up down in 6th, but not too bad of a loss for that for the wreck that he had. And so Flannery, Kundinger, and Hazelton, your podium in the second race. You will have to join us on the website once we make sense of the results. We'd be glad to have you. There will, of course, be a write-up of all of this madness, along with photos and all manner of good stuff at fprox.net. Thank you so much for watching us tonight. This has been an absolute ball. Thank you once again to our producer, Dennis, for all his hard work tonight with the PC crash and everything. We still managed to make it happen, Dennis. Much appreciated. And thanks, of course, to you, Robert, for joining me in the commentary.
You're very welcome, Jim. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to commentate on such a really great series, and once again, a really great race. And I can't wait for the next one. I really can't.
I can't either. Well, if you're out there and watching and wondering if you can be part of this madness, the answer is absolutely. Check us out at fprox.net. Send us a message, jump on the Discord. We'll tell you all about it. Thank you to Apex for their help in putting on such a great broadcast. And most of all, to our title sponsor, J-Zilla Track Days. If you're in the Atlanta area and you want to drive some cars on track, do get in touch with those guys. They're really just a great bunch of guys to hang out with. And that's how all of this got started for us. So thank you so much to them for trusting us enough to give us a few bucks to put together some fun like this. So join us for next week. Go to the website, subscribe on the YouTube, do all of that stuff. We're going to be having all kinds of fun like this for the next couple of weeks. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.